Welcome to Project One. Building a strong community takes each one of us, and Project One is the place to start. 1 hour, one person, one life changed. On today's show, we'll feature an organization that is changing lives and transforming our community. So get ready to be inspired.
We want to
Here's
welcome
the
you
host
today
of
to
Project
Project One, and we're so
Jan
thrilled
Johnson.
that we are here again, just bringing to you through the radio airways an amazing organization that is making a difference. But before we get to talking with my guest, who is Lily Kristen, the founder and executive director for Jireh Ministries, I just want to welcome our new listening audience on our brand new station as of February 12th with Freedom 1160. And we're so thrilled that we get to come to you every Saturday morning at 6:30 a.m. with Project One. And if you're listening for the first time, either on one of our other sister stations or on Freedom 1160, we want to just tell you quickly about Project One. Project One is an initiative of Salem Media Group of San Antonio, and we decided that we wanted to use our amplification to be able to bring a voice to nonprofit organizations that either have mentors or volunteers and that are making a difference in the life of another. And so Project One basically stands for 1 hour, one person, one life changed. And Project One is an opportunity to love your neighbor by volunteering for either 1 hour a week, maybe a day, a month, whatever time that you have to spend with one other person to impact their life for better. And so every week we will bring you a new nonprofit organization that is doing exactly that. We educate you about who they are, put you in contact with the right people within that organization, and then either you are moved to be able to get involved with them, or you might know of someone who wants to be involved in volunteering or being a mentor in one of these organizations. And then about once a quarter, we will do a mixer out at our sponsor's location at Documation, where you can actually come and meet them in person, talk with them, find out how you can get involved. So that's what Project One is. And if for some reason you miss it on Freedom 1160 at 6:30 every Saturday morning, then you can catch us at 7 a.m. on AM 630 KSLR The Word, or at 9 o'clock at night every Saturday on 9:30 a.m. The Answer. And of course, you can always go to this station's website, click on the tab Project One, and listen to the podcast. So we just want to welcome you, our new Freedom 1160 listeners, and we know that as you hear these shows from week to week, as our other listeners on our other stations have done, you'll get inspired and want to get involved. And as I was preparing today for the conversation, I read this quote, and it said, "Volunteers do not necessarily have time, but they do have the heart." And Lily, when I read that, I thought of you and your ministry. You are the executive director and founder for Jireh Ministries and Open Arms Foster to Care. And I just want to welcome you today. We've tried to get together for several weeks now, and we're finally here. And I know that God orchestrates our time. So I think our timing now is perfect. So tell us a bit about yourself and how you founded Jireh Ministries.
Thank you for having me here, Jan. It's a pleasure and a privilege. I'm so glad you mentioned about perfect timing, because that is so true. God's perfect timing may not be our perfect timing, but it is perfect in His sight. And I love your mission. Before we get off the Project One, I love the mission and the focus that you guys have. 1 hour, one person, because I am a big believer in that. One person can make a big difference.
Yes.
That's how this whole thing started. 24 years ago, I started.
Wow.
One person, me. And then I brought another person in, my son, my oldest son. Then another person, my youngest son. The three of us started going to schools, talking to kids about staying out of gangs and drugs through rap music.
Really?
And graffiti art.
Oh, how fun.
And the Local Hero program was born. And it won national attention. We've got awards and all kinds of national attention
for the rap music and the graffiti art. Wow. So where's some of the graffiti art? Is it still up, or?
Well, the San Antonio Cultural Arts Department funded 5 neighborhood beautification murals.
Wow.
That my son painted, airbrushed. But, in every school, the kids are drawn to either music or art.
Right.
And to teenagers. So my teenage boys got their attention with it. And we probably impacted over 250,000 kids in the 12 years that went on. Since then, this Jireh Ministries has evolved into children's shelters and foster adoption agencies, and we've been supporting local shelters, children and teens, and single mothers for, we started our Christmas shoebox gift program 7 years ago now. I'm going to say 7 years ago.
And this all first started with you just going into schools, doing the rap music and the graffiti art.
That's how we started.
But then God built on that. Mm-hmm. Wow.
And now we've just opened our own foster placement agency. We're about to open our own children's shelter. So it did. It just grew and built up, and it's all about the children, the teens, and the focus on directing their energies, their thoughts, their productivity positively, and how they can pay it forward and impact another person.
Right. So how many kids have you seen through the program? And I want to get to Open Arms, your foster care agency, but how many kids before you got into the foster care were you involved in working with? Were you in a specific school district, or how did that work?
Well, we started with the San Antonio School District, but quickly moved on to others. In any one given year, we would do anywhere from 20 to 30, 35 schools a year.
And they would let you come in?
Yes,
not a problem.
Not a problem. And the kids, we had a mentorship program going on, and we would teach them job and life skills. If they were interested in art, we helped them with that. If they were interested in music, we helped them with that. Being a single mother myself with 2 sons, I knew the difficulties that these kids, they fall through the cracks, and without a lot of attention and without a lot of positive role models and direction, especially based on their talents. I had, when my kids were growing up, my sons were growing up, they were into rap music. I was not into rap music, but I knew that I needed to cultivate that in them, and direct them. So he had the opportunity to go into the negative and the hateful and the ugly stuff, but with direction, with love and encouragement and direction, opening doors. By the time he was 9 years old, he was performing for the DARE program through schools.
Wow!
So that encouraged him to do the positive.
And took him away from what could have been a very detrimental situation.
Oh, yes.
And for you to say, as a single mother raising 2 boys, you knew what to look for in the kids that you were dealing with. Yes. And I think that's so important, Lily, because there's so many people that are out there that will say, oh, I know exactly what you're going through. And they don't.
So true.
And you really can't connect with a child or a young adult or anyone that's going through a situation fully unless you've walked it. So here your boys have walked being in a single home and probably being left, maybe being kids that are left alone because the parent is having to work.
Yes.
But you could help redirect that.
Exactly.
So fast forward us then to when you opened up the foster care. What made you go that route?
Well, as my sons grew, developed into adults and married, and, I have 8 grandchildren.
No.
I am blessed to have 8 grandchildren, and they're all involved in doing something for the community, investing into others. So from the time they were tiny, they were helping in food banks, they were helping with Christmas gifts. So they've grown up in that.
Good job, Mama.
It's all part of it, right? They are the offspring of what's in your heart, out of the abundance of the heart, right?
Right.
The life flourishes, and the mouth speaks, and the life, becomes that tree of life. So my 12-year-old grandson now, last year, became the first junior teen leader to collect Christmas gifts, and I hope he's the first of many future junior team leaders, right?
Yes.
But through one of our programs, the Christmas Shoebox Gift Program, last year alone, we collected and distributed over 28,000 gifts.
Oh, my word.
28,000 gifts went out to children, to teens, to single mothers living in shelters, in foster homes, and needy families. 3,600 500 of those gifts were driven. We personally drove them to Houston for the families that were victims of Hurricane Harvey.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So talk about one person impacting.
You are basically our walking poster for Project One.
We are.
Because there's a lot of people, and I want you to encourage, before we go to break, there's a lot of people that think, oh, I could probably go do that, but I can't do it by myself.
Right.
But it just takes walking one step at a time.
Yes.
And being known that God has called you to something.
Exactly.
That He's walking with you. So you're not walking by yourself. So encourage somebody that might be listening. We've got about 45 seconds. Encourage, before we go to break, someone who might be going,
You bet. It all starts with that step of faith, that first step of faith.
Yeah.
And it has to come from you. But once you start taking that step of faith, God starts releasing the resources you need. The people, the human resources, the financial resources, the space, the ideas, the creativity, all of that. But it has to start with you. He's waiting on you.
yes.
He's waiting on you.
Yes.
Take that step and the resources will start coming. So I encourage you, don't let fear or lack of anything stop you. Take that first step of faith and keep going until those resources start coming your way.
And that's one of the reasons, Lily, that we wanted to do Project One, is to be that amplification for organizations like yourself that just lets people know that are sitting out there or listening to the program by scheduling to listen, or they just happen on the program or the podcast and think, you know what, I could help them. I've got either this skill, or I've got the funds, or I've got the ability, or I know someone who can help.
That's right.
And that's why we're so big on the volunteering and the mentoring. And so I don't want you to go anywhere. Lily, sit right here. And if you're listening to this program, please don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. We're going to go to a quick break and talk about our mixer that is coming up on April the 5th, where actually you could get to meet Lily. But we'll be right back, and we're going to talk about how you can get involved with Jireh Ministries and either their Open Arms Foster Care, and there's some big news about a shelter that's opening. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Join Project One for our quarterly mixer, where you get to meet many of the previous organizations we have featured right here on Project One. Thursday, April 5th, from 4 to 6 p.m. at Documation Headquarters. You'll get to meet with leaders with many nonprofit organizations we have featured that are looking for mentors and volunteers just like you. Come see what they're all about, hear from each of them, and be a part of our live Project One recording. Light refreshments will be served, along with tours of Documation's incredible headquarters. Plus, be in our studio where we come to you weekly. That's Thursday, April 5th, from 4 till 6 p.m. at the Documation Headquarters, 4560 Lock Hill Selma Road in San Antonio. Will you be the one that makes a difference in the life of another? Then join us April 5th. Plus, we'll have some great door prizes. We'll see you there.
We want to welcome you back to Project One, and I don't want to take any more time up because I want to continue this conversation with Lily Kristen, who is the founder and executive director for Jireh Ministries. And before we went to break, you were talking about how you've just kind of progressed over the years, and you talked about how God just takes the idea and you walk with God one step at a time. So you started this with your boys, and one was into rap music and the other one was into graffiti art. How did you get to come to do the foster care? Talk to us about that, and then your announcement about the shelter.
Well, as they grew and developed their own families, right, I was still in the ministry. They developed their own ministries and their own businesses and developed in that. One has his own music production company and bringing in positive musicians and singers, and the other one has his own art company. So all of that has continued and evolved, and I am so blessed to have them working in their purpose within their God-given talents, right? Neither one of them has ever had any kind of class for it, but yet they're making a living doing that. So anyway, I wanted to continue supporting children and teens, so I started supporting existing children's shelters, family shelters, single mother shelters. I was a pastor at the children's shelter for a while, and I saw, that the need is so great, just to spend time with them, to read to them, to provide for them. So that's what got me into opening my eyes to see how we're so underserved when it comes to children's beds. There's over 295,000 kids in the state of Texas, Jan, that are either in a shelter, they're waiting for a shelter bed,
oh my,
or they're in a foster home.
How tragic.
295,000 kids, and
that's a city.
That is that should not be happening.
No, it shouldn't.
In the state of Texas, where these kids, some of them are on a waiting list for years and years and years, waiting for a safe shelter bed.
Right.
So my thought was, we are so underserved there, we need to open up either a shelter, an emergency shelter, a long-term shelter, and a transitional shelter. All those are in the works. And a foster placement agency where it's a foster to adopt is made available to them, because with a shelter you have limits,
right,
as to how many beds you can have, but with a foster placement agency, the idea is to find families.
So you could rescue them out of situations, keep them for a time until they're placed into foster care.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. So that's the focus now. And you were talking about volunteers and mentoring earlier, and I just finished my end of the year report on what we did last year in regards to volunteers, right? And like I said earlier, we collected over 28,000 gifts, but in volunteer hours, over 600 volunteers helped us last year.
Wow.
And so that equates to over $160,000 worth of volunteer hours in all the things that we did.
That you could not have done without people stepping up to say, I'm here.
Yes. So we need every single volunteer. If you have 1 hour, just a little bit of your time goes a long ways to really impact a child. And the stories that I could tell you are just incredible over the years that just one shoebox gift will do. It really is an instrument of healing.
Yes, yes.
So,
and especially when you have the kind of ministry where you prepare these, I know you're praying over them.
oh, yes.
I actually got to be at a home that the children opened up a shoebox that was provided by a national ministry that the station was involved in.
Yes.
And it was incredible to see that the items that was in one child's box was a little different to what was in the other.
Correct.
But what was in each box was perfect for that child.
Isn't that something?
And they're like, how did you know?
How did you know?
And you just go, you know what? That's the Lord. He knows you so much better than I do, that He helped plant that stuff in that box.
Exactly what they needed.
Yes.
I know.
And it was so encouraging. In fact, I'm looking down. I've got chills on my arm just thinking about it. But that's what we want to do. And I want to encourage everybody that if you're wanting information about Lily's ministry, Jireh Ministries, if you go to the station's website and click on the tab Project One, we'll have every way that you can get in contact with her and how you can find to get involved by volunteering. And that you mentioned earlier in the first segment, Lily, that your kids were kind of mentoring other kids that were going through issues.
Correct.
So let's talk about that, because you mentioned it just takes one person to sit down and read a book or encourage a child, and that's really mentoring another child to take the talents that they've got, like what you did with your sons.
Right.
And now they're successful men with their own business, with their own families, still doing the heart and passion.
Exactly.
So if there's others out there that could mentor students in whatever their passion is, what are we saying about society? We're producing great people to go back into society. So what would be some areas of mentorship that you would look for from our listeners?
Well, reading literacy is very low, unfortunately, and that's always needed. Math skills. My son, the artist John David de Leon, he's a pastor now as well, but also owns his own business. And every time he does murals, he invites kids to come out. So just spending 45 minutes, an hour, a couple of hours, half an afternoon with them, encourages them so much.
Wow.
I've got grown kids now that have known my son for 20 years now that say, just that afternoon I spent with him really changed the trajectory of my life.
Yeah.
And my other son, Capone, he is into music, of course, and building that singer, that musician, that writing the songs, mentoring them to do that. Oh my goodness, Kingdom Legacy Records is constantly just mentoring the next songwriter, the next musician, the next rapper. So in anything, I'm mentoring one of my granddaughters right now in how to write grants.
Wow.
And
there's so many nonprofits out there that they're looking for grant writers.
Exactly. So she's between jobs, and I said, how about learning grant writing, because that's a skill, a job skill, a life skill that could take her very far.
Absolutely.
Right? But she's not the only one. I've done it with other people. I had an intern a couple of years ago, and I mentored her in just nonprofit organization and structure and forms and reporting and
because it is different.
Oh, it's very different. And those are skills that she's been able to use in her college now.
Incredible.
So anything that you're doing, mentoring in bookkeeping, mentoring in any job that you've got, if you'll open up your heart and your time to just say, I'll take a child, I'll take a teen, and give them some life skills, some job skills.
And again, if you want to get in touch with Lily, we have information on this station's website by clicking on the tab Project One, and we'll have all the information, and maybe we can post some information and some pictures or even some links to your son's organizations and businesses that they have as well. But I think it just reiterates the importance of mentoring, how you can definitely change the life of another individual. I remember as a small child, and who would have ever thought when I was a small child, my daddy was a pastor, and I would get up on the pulpit, and this was even before microphones, so I'm dating myself here, but I would get up and I would introduce him.
Look
Just,
at that.
Just as a kid, or I'd be in the living room and I'd say, and now coming to preach the word of God is, and I'd say this stuff. And whoever, the Lord knew, He's sovereign, He knew that all these years later, I would be in radio doing that. And I remember Him telling me, baby girl, you've got a voice. Of course, right now it sounds like I've got allergies, which I do. But He's like, baby, you've got a voice. Use that. Well, I thought He meant singing. So I pursued a singing route. Never did I think I'd be in radio until one day somebody told me, you've got a voice for radio. And it brought it back from when I was probably 5 or 6 years old. So you don't know. Words are so powerful. And what we speak over our children or to a child.
I agree.
And so if you're listening to this, I strongly, strongly encourage you to pick up the phone, get in touch with Lily, get involved with either Open Arms Foster Care, but even when she has the shelter and that's open, and we'll be able to have some information about that when that is opening, to go down and help, just be there to greet those kids and speak life into them, because many of them are coming from tragic situations, and you could be pivotal in changing the way they think about themselves in the future.
That's right.
So tell us when the opening of the shelter is going to be.
Well, we've been working on that for a while, and God has blessed us with an angel who has donated all the money that we need. We're just waiting for the money to come in.
Wow.
So we'll be entering it debt-free.
Wow.
But we have many other areas where people can volunteer. One other area I wanted to mention was our greenhouse project. We're collaborating with another ministry in Castroville, and we have a 5,000 square foot greenhouse where we're growing organic foods and vegetables.
Wow.
So we're looking for organic gardeners and farmers who might want to volunteer some time.
Or maybe someone like me who does not have a green thumb, come and learn.
Come and learn.
Wow.
We need lots of hands, so we're looking for corporate angels to assist with our foster placement agency. We just opened it, and it's critical in the first couple of years that we're financially established. So if you're a corporate angel and you'd like to connect with us, somehow, and we are looking for some corporate angels in that area, photographers, videographers, Administrators, there's always something to do. So don't hesitate in saying, Lily, I can do this. Do you have need for that?
Yeah. Give you a call.
Exactly.
Well, Lily, I hate to say this, but we are out of time, and I could just take a whole another 30-minute program just to talk to you. But you're so inspiring. You're so encouraging.
Thank you.
And you really are the voice of what Project One is all about. You had something in your heart. You saw it. You saw the need, and you just followed, and you led, and you mentored not only your sons, but those that your sons touched as well. Right. I want to thank you for being a part today. God bless you, and let us know how we can continue to help and support what Jireh Ministries is doing. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Jan.